This is a 5-minute video on incorporating the investment environment into the neoclassical growth model. If I asked you to depict the investment function in a graph, you'd probably draw something like this. Investment over here on the x-axis, the cost of borrowing, the real interest rate here, and a downward sloping function where investment is a function of the interest rate with a minus sign, the marginal product of capital with a positive sign, and let's say the tax rate on capital with a minus sign. So there's an investment demand function. The Solow model is a closed economy model, and so the macro identity says that investment has to be financed by domestic saving. So let's draw saving in the same diagram. In the Solow model, saving is just a constant times GDP. It doesn't depend on the interest rate. The implication of that is that the investment environment simply does not matter. The equilibrium interest rate is here. The equilibrium level of investment is here. And anything that shifted the investment function, let's say shifted it up because the marginal product of capital rose, investment becomes more productive, or the tax rate fell. That is going to affect the interest rate in this home economy, but it's not going to affect the amount of investment and not going to affect growth. So the causal arrow in this model, in the Solow model, is really unambiguous. It runs from saving to investment. Okay? Let's look at an extreme case in which the investment environment is all that determines investment and saving doesn't even matter at all. So to do that, I'm going to depict S&I on the same graph again, and the real interest rate here. I'm going to make S a little bit interest sensitive. Doesn't have to be. And there's that investment demand function we drew previously. Let's now situate this country in a global market where it is so small that how much it borrows or lends in that market has absolutely no impact on the global world, the world real interest rate, RW. Okay? In the benchmark of perfect capital mobility, the domestic interest rate comes into line with the world rate, and we see that investment is now determined with no reference at all to saving. So the saving function could be shifting around, but that's not going to affect the level of investment that emerges. You know from your macro accounting that the difference here is the current account surplus with a minus sign, the current account deficit, capital inflows, letting investment be higher than saving. But here, the world looks really quite different in terms of the determination of investment. If there were something that increased the marginal product of capital or made the investment environment more attractive, that is going to feed in to higher investment directly with absolutely no effect on the domestic interest rate or on saving. So here is a world in which the causal arrows between saving and investment literally don't exist. There is no arrow from saving to investment, and there's no arrow from investment to saving. The two things are essentially determined separately by their own determinants. Well, the standard would be the intermediate case, either a closed economy where saving is responsive to the interest rate, or an open economy where there's imperfect capital mobility. So you can draw those cases. I'll let you do the open economy yourself. I'll give you a hint. But here's the closed economy case where saving is interest elastic, or at least not perfectly inelastic. And in this world, a change in the investment environment will feed through to change the equilibrium level of investment. So something that makes a better investment environment, let's say a tax cut on the tax on capital or a rise in the marginal product of capital, will feed through here to give you an increase in investment. Okay, so this is a world in which things that shift the saving function will affect investment, and also things that shift the investment function will affect saving. And so those investment determinants will come in to the speed of capital accumulation. Okay, if you want imperfect capital mobility globally, the way to handle that would be to use a slightly different diagrammatic apparatus. I'll just draw that here for you and let you play with it. So let's measure I minus S, the difference between investment demand and saving supply in the home economy. That's going to be a function of the determinants on both sides. And then let's think of a situation in which the supply of funds is anchored at some kind of risk-free rate, call it RW, but that the supply of funds looks like something like this, upward sloping function. Into this economy. And in that world, you're going to find that your equilibrium is going to be one in which the domestic interest rate and the current account deficit are jointly determined, right? This is the current account deficit, are jointly determined, and the determinants of investment and saving will both matter. So we'll stop there.